Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of November 4th, 2025. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Ogontoy, an infantry officer. The operational tempo indicates a clear transition to strategic immobilization warfare, a doctrine prioritizing degradation of Ukraine's logistics, energy infrastructure, and C2 networks rather than territorial rushes. Encirclements at Kupiansk and Krasnoarmeysk have entered advanced stages, where logistical collapse is used as a weapon. Ukraine's loss of key Western systems, Bogdana, M777, Buk, HMMWV, and Kazakh, illustrates the attrition of its NATO-provided arsenal. Simultaneous strikes on energy and manufacturing targets will further impede repair and replenishment through winter. The destruction of over 94,000 UAVs and 635 air defense systems since the operation's onset highlights Russia's long-term air denial strategy, rendering Ukrainian ISR capacity nearly obsolete. Operational control is now systemic, not linear, based on isolation, exhaustion, and strategic paralysis across the Ukrainian command spectrum.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Ogontoy, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Ogontoy, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel Ogontoy, let's begin with your overall situational assessment. What defines the operational tempo across the fronts as of November 4th, 2025?
As of this week, we're observing a coordinated, multi-sector acceleration in offensive and counteroffensive activities. Russian forces are applying simultaneous pressure across the operational belt, aiming to deplete Ukrainian reserves and complicate command cohesion. The structure remains sectoral, each troop group executing distinct but synchronized objectives. The overarching doctrine here is distributed attrition, multiple thrusts, and localized encirclements that erode Ukraine's ability to mass forces for large-scale counteraction. The Russians are maintaining a rhythm, rotating between tactical advancement, consolidation, and interdiction strikes on logistics and production nodes. We're seeing energy and transport infrastructure increasingly targeted, which directly constrains the Ukrainian military-industrial base. Air and missile units continue to deliver depth strikes, 152 separate targets in the past 24 hours, disrupting fuel, ammunition, and manufacturing networks.
Let's start in the north, specifically the Sumy and Kharkiv areas, where the North Troop Group has been active. What's the picture there?
In the north, the Russian North Troop Group executed concentrated strikes against Ukrainian mechanized and assault elements across Alexeyevka, Andriivka, Proletarskoye, Novaya Sek, and Korchakovka in Sumy Oblast. Simultaneously, in the Kharkiv direction, Simelnikovo and Volchansk, mechanized and motorized units were hit. These engagements fit a classical shaping operation. The intent isn't a sweeping breakthrough but rather attritional reduction of manpower and equipment, 225 Ukrainian losses in personnel, 12 vehicles, and a field gun in a single day. Equally notable is the destruction of multiple logistics enablers, 4 supply depots, 3 ammunition stores, and a radio-electronic reconnaissance station. That last detail tells us something crucial. The North Command is emphasizing electronic denial. Neutralizing recon and counter-battery assets limits Ukrainian targeting capability, allowing Russian units to maneuver with less exposure.
So, would you say the Northern Front is stabilizing? Or are these engagements preludes to something larger?
At this point, stabilization with pressure. The Northern Axis functions as a containment line, tying down Ukrainian territorial defense and preventing redeployment southward. However, the volume of electronic warfare activity suggests preparation for a future push once logistical lines from Belgorod and Kursk are fully reoptimized. It's a long game, erosion first, then positional exploitation. Air defense intercepts remain intense. 204 UAVs, a HIMARS rocket, and 3 precision bombs were downed within the same period, underscoring the density of electronic warfare and counter-battery operations in this phase.
The West Troop Group appears to have made measurable progress. What stands out in their operational activity?
The Western Front, particularly around Kupiansk, is dynamic. Russian units report an improved tactical posture across several settlements including Petropavlovka, Kurilovka, and Novoplatinovka. Here, the doctrine of encirclement and interdiction is on full display. The 6th Army continues tightening the ring around entrenched Ukrainian forces near Kupiansk. An attempted breakout by the 1st National Guard Brigade toward the Oskol River was contained, leaving Ukrainian formations increasingly isolated. Over the last 24 hours, Ukrainian losses exceeded 220 personnel, with several high-value assets destroyed, 155mm Bogdana SPGs, US-made HMMWVs, and a counter-battery radar. The pattern indicates sustained Russian effort to compress the Kupiansk pocket from the northeast, effectively sealing off one of Ukraine's main reinforcement corridors. The destruction of 6 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations also suggests a systematic dismantling of Ukrainian command infrastructure.
Encirclement is costly to maintain. How does doctrine justify this approach here?
Encirclements are high-risk, high-reward operations. The key lies in tempo and logistics. By applying pressure on multiple axes, north and west of Kupiansk, the Russians are forcing Ukraine to commit reserves piecemeal. If supply routes across the Oskol River are fully severed, the pocket collapses without a direct frontal assault. It's economy of force through spatial control.
Moving southward, what progress has the South Group achieved in the Donetsk People's Republic?
The South Group advanced into more advantageous positions across Drushkovka, Seversky, and Zvanovka. Their targets included mechanized, marine, and territorial defense brigades. Ukrainian casualties reached about 105 men, with 4 AFVs, 11 vehicles, and 6 artillery pieces destroyed. More critical, however, are the secondary effects: destruction of radio-electronic warfare sites and a fuel and supply depot, classic logistical decapitation. The doctrine here is progressive anchoring, taking slightly elevated or more defensible lines that provide better observation and fire control over adjacent Ukrainian routes. This sector's momentum is incremental but steady. Each local gain shortens Russian artillery response times and extends pressure toward Kramatorsk's outer approaches.
Would you characterize this as a pre-offensive positioning phase or a consolidation effort?
Primarily consolidation with local offensive intent. The terrain in southern Donetsk rewards attritional gains over sweeping maneuver. Each hill and village serves as a firing platform. Expect continued bite and hold tactics, small advances that secure supply corridors for future pushes.
The Center Troop Group seems to be the focal point. Can you elaborate on developments there?
Yes, the center front has become decisive. Russian formations, specifically the 2nd and 51st Armies, are executing simultaneous urban clearances around Krasnoarmysk, Pryat, and Dnepr. Within the past 24 hours, over 430 Ukrainian servicemen were reported neutralized. Inside Krasnoarmysk, Russian assault groups liberated multiple residential zones, 4 buildings in the Prigorodny microdistrict and 31 in the Central District. Simultaneously, Dmitrov's northern and eastern sectors saw 17 buildings secured by the 5th Motorized Rifle Brigade. The doctrine evident here is multi-nuclear urban encirclement, breaking enemy resistance by isolating micro-pockets, not just seizing the town center. Each district cleared compounds the encirclement geometry. Counterattacks from Brashino by foreign mercenaries were repelled, up to 30 fighters were eliminated. The numbers, 430 losses, a tank, several armored vehicles, reflect sustained close-quarters fighting.
How does this affect the broader Donetsk operational landscape?
The tightening around Krasnoarmysk fractures Ukrainian command cohesion in central Donetsk. Should this encirclement complete, it unlocks lateral pressure toward both Kostiantynivka and Pokrovsk. The operational reward is the ability to pivot east or west at will. Urban warfare here is resource-intensive, but by subdividing the battle space into discrete clear-and-hold grids, Russian forces can systematically absorb the city without overextending.
Turning east, the reports mention deeper penetrations into Ukrainian defenses. What's happening on that front?
The East Troop Group advanced into defensive belts near Egorovka, Vishnevoy, and Radysnoy. Ukrainian formations lost around 240 men, 20 vehicles, and several electronic warfare assets. The pattern aligns with what we call defense erosion, multi-axis small unit penetrations that degrade the integrity of Ukrainian trenches and C2 networks. The destruction of 5 EW stations is notable. It indicates Russia's intent to suppress Ukraine's surveillance grid before larger offensive formations roll forward. We may be witnessing preparatory fire for deeper advances toward the Zaporizhia line.
Does this suggest renewed emphasis on Zaporizhia's strategic corridor?
Precisely. Zaporizhia represents both an industrial node and a logistics artery. The ongoing attrition east of Dnipropetrovsk prepares conditions for either a southern pincer or deeper interdiction into Ukraine's central logistics web.
Finally, let's cover the Dnepr group along the river axis. What's unfolding there?
Along the Dnipro and Kherson-Zaporizhia corridor, Russian forces targeted mechanized and mountain assault units near Maly Sherbaki, Poniatowka, Sadavoy, and Antonovka. Approximately 80 Ukrainian troops, an armored vehicle, and multiple supply depots were neutralized. This reflects riverline interdiction doctrine, denying the enemy secure crossings, forcing them to overextend supply lines on both banks. The emphasis on destroying fuel and ammunition depots supports this. Each depot removed compounds the logistical friction Ukraine faces in maintaining bridgehead operations across the Dnipro.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. Tactically, the Russian side is optimizing for attrition efficiency, high ratios of Ukrainian losses with minimal territorial overextension. Each sector mirrors doctrinal synchronization, destruction of command nodes, cutting of supply routes, and systematic tightening of encirclement pockets. Strategically, the focus on infrastructure and industrial targets, fuel depots, shell plants, rail hubs, shows a deliberate campaign to erode Ukraine's war sustainment capacity. If continued through winter, this could degrade Kyiv's operational depth before spring 2026. Moreover, the surge in air defense interceptions indicates both sides are locked in a technology-intensive stalemate. The balance now hinges on logistics, electronic resilience, and the ability to rotate exhausted formations without collapse.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive Frontline updates from commanders in theater.